you need to put that on that screen, on that specifically screen, okay. So here it's working perfectly right now, okay. So one of the issue that I face that, okay, when my application is terminated position, okay, so when I click onto the universal linking, it's not working, okay. So I guess that's the issue I am facing that, okay. So he said, okay, let me figure it out. He figured it out, okay. Then he said that, okay, you do one thing, okay. You can save this information when the universal link is clicked on it and the application is terminated. You need to save that link, okay, basically ID, basically in the universal linking that, okay. You need to save that ID into the user default. Then you can change. Then you can say open that face, basically the screen of that application, okay. So I'm just checking that, okay. So it's not working. I know that where I need to put the code, but the cursor is don't know where we need to put this code. So after that, okay, couple of, you can say might be 30 minutes, okay. So I just put them, okay, can you please put this code onto here on that location? He said that's your right. So how do you think that? So these type of errors, I don't say the errors say that, but how it should be. You think that, okay, so how many months or how many years it should be a perfect, okay. Like I am just I know the guy, okay, but I want to know that, okay, like it should be a month, might be a weeks, okay. I don't know that, okay. But you are the expert on that field, okay. How do you think that? So this type of issues we can fix that, or it should be very well into the future, right? How do you think that, like years, months? That's my question.
Yeah, it's a difficult question. It's a bit like asking how long is a piece of string. It's a hard one to solve, but I think there's kind of two areas here. There's the models themselves getting smarter and having the kind of being trained around the use cases almost. So Claude 4 was really the first model that was trained around running tools, exploring a code base. It really was built around the use case. Whereas Claude 3, 3.5, even 3.7 were still trying to go for that generic, almost, these models can do everything. And as you start to nail the models down to their use case, they will get better at instinctively knowing or kind of looking around your code base and remembering from earlier in the conversation where changes need to go and where that lives. But also there's the other side, which is the cursor side that we have a lot of ability to fit, which is the features and the functionality of how we use the model and the information we give it almost. So there's a few features, and this is where the kind of the cost benefit kind of starts to weigh slightly, but there's features in Cursor, as an example of one, that you can turn on, and then when you mention a folder, it doesn't actually just give you the folder name or folder structure, but the contents of the folder. Which honestly, if you could pour your entire code base into the model every time you sent a message, it would have perfect understanding, it would know exactly where to put the code. But it's really this kind of this line of being able to get the model to do everything you want it to do without having to spend a car, the value of a car on tokens every month, because it's just how much it needs. But it's definitely something that's a pretty hot topic internally in Cursor. I think one thing we're looking at is how can we maybe pre-process your code base before you've even spoken to the model. Pre-process your code base. I think this is something Claude Code does, but it's something we've been looking at for a while and not quite found the perfect solution for yet. But yeah, how do we pre-process your code base so that the model doesn't have to do any searching, doesn't have to look around and find the right place or anything like that. Especially big code bases, the model could be there for hours looking around and trying to find the right place that something lives and trying to follow the stack trace back. So that's definitely one thing, and another is, so we already have code base indexing, which can kind of point the model in the right direction sometimes. But that's another side of the problem that we're working on quite a lot internally, which is not necessarily pre-processing it like Claude Code does, where it kind of throws all the files in and gets Claude Code to build a bit of a mini map of your code, but instead using more of the kind of almost the hard maths, the semantics and stuff like that of your code base to be able to point the model in the right direction. I think this will only get better, and I think it will be months, not years. I think Claude 4 was a massive step up versus 3 to 3.5 or 3 to 3.7. Claude 4 is, as I say, really the first model works really well in Cursor, as does Gemini 2.5. That's also a very good model contender, and I think the way that Sam Altman, I was watching a video earlier, the way that Sam Altman's talking about GPT-5, he seems to think that's going to be equally a big step up. So Cursor and its use is definitely at the right place in terms of being able to benefit from whatever model is the best at the time. I think that's obviously one of the big appeals, is Cursor being a bit of a market, like the Amazon of models. Almost, you come to us and everything's there. Yeah, I think the models will get better, and we've got lots of stuff in the works as well that should hopefully make this kind of make that very specific issue a lot smoother.
I mean, even the Cursor is very better. I was experiencing that one of that issue that even I was using one of that library, okay, part of the download the images into my application, okay. So I didn't accept that one of that, it's you can say millions of users in that application, okay. So they want to add a new feature in that application. So I was working on that application, okay. So on that I was facing an issue to download the images, okay, but the Cursor is giving me a very detailed, okay, and he gave me the answer that might be you have the issues in your library, okay. So that's the exact issue into the library that I found it that, and I replaced it, and amazing. I think so that's a amazing thing that's come into Cursor, okay. Then after that I was come on to paid user of the Cursor library.
Yeah, definitely. I think one other thing that I think is also quite important that we probably haven't spent enough time on is actually looking into the dependencies and the libraries and the frameworks and stuff that build your code base, because you might use a method, a function, exactly how the documentation tells you to, and it might not work. Unless Cursor and the models are perfectly capable of jumping into your dependencies, into the frameworks, figuring out what's actually going on there. But at the moment, especially with projects where the libraries are removed. So an example is if you're building iOS apps on X with Xcode, the frameworks and stuff that you pull in live somewhere else in your code base. It's not like a Node.js project where you have Node modules in the code base. They live remote. And unless you manually bring them in, which I definitely do, you can use VS Code workspaces, the feature that has been brought over from there, to bring those in remotely, and then suddenly Cursor can see them and can look at the logic and go, oh, we're using it wrong, and can fix it really quickly. But without that there, without all the pieces of the puzzle, it can't really step back and take a look and go, I see what's going on. So yeah, definitely something that we'll be kind of looking into, I think.
Thank you.
Cool.
Go on here. My query is related to data privacy. Let's say I am working in company A and I am building a